Amen. Well, it's good to be back at Bible College tonight in the music class here at Bethel Baptist Institute. We'll say welcome to everybody and everybody watching us via correspondence and all of you folks out in Nebraska as well. Thank you for tuning in and for joining us this evening. It is a joy to be back at Bible College, and we've got a new song to learn tonight in our hymnology. Tonight is going to be When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. This is a very, very old song. In fact, this is one of the original English hymns that were ever written. It was written by the father of English hymnody, Mr. Isaac Watts himself, who was born in 1674 and died in 1748. So that's a very ancient song. But nevertheless, it is one of the most beautiful hymns that you'll ever hear. And the way that the chords progress through this one is very memorable. This is a tune that will get stuck in your head and it'll never leave. It's wonderful, and the words are just beautiful as well. So let's look at this song tonight and listen to me as I read a little bit about When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. This hymn by Isaac Watts, labeled by the well-known theologian Matthew Arnold as the greatest hymn in the English language, was written in 1707 for use at a communion service conducted by Watts. It first appeared in print that same year in Watts' outstanding collection, Hymns and Spiritual Songs. Its original title was Crucifixion to the World by the Cross of Christ. Isaac Watts was born on July 17, 1674 in Southampton, England. The eldest of 9 children, he was the son of an educated deacon in a dissenting congregational church. At the time of Isaac's birth, his father was in prison for his nonconformist beliefs. Young Watts showed an unusual aptitude for study and learned Latin at the age of 5, Greek at 9, French at 11, and Hebrew at 13. He began to write verses of good quality when he was very young. Watts is frequently referred to as the father of English hymnody. One of his early concerns was the deplorable state to which congregational singing had degenerated in most English-speaking churches. The singing consisted of slow, ponderous psalms in which each line was first read by an appointed deacon and followed by the droning of the congregation. The texts of these psalm hymns were often crude and inelegant. Typical doggerel of this time is, "Ye monsters of the bubbling deep, your master's praises spout. Up from the sands ye codlings peep, and wag your tails about." Amen. That just sounds like hallelujah to me, you know. Watts once wrote, "The singing of God's praise is the part of worship most closely related to heaven, but its performance among us in this world is the worst on earth." Don't forget his father was the preacher. One Sunday, after returning from a typically poor service, he exclaimed, I lost my place. He continued to rail against the congregational singing. And his father exclaimed, "Well, why don't you give us something better, young man?" Well, before the evening service began, young Isaac had written his first hymn, which was received with great enthusiasm by the people. The youthful poet decided to write other hymn settings. For a period of 2 years, Watts wrote a new hymn every Sunday. He went on to write new metrical versions of the Psalms with a desire to Christianize the Psalms with the New Testament message and style. Several of his hymns that were based on these new psalm settings are such favorites as "Jesus Shall Reign," "O God, Our Help in Ages Past." Watts is also the author of a children's hymn, "I Sing the Mighty Power of God." Because of this bold departure from the traditional psalms, Isaac Watts was often considered to be a radical churchman in his day. Isaac Watts is also the author of "Am I a Soldier of the Cross?" and also "Joy to the World." Watts not only rewrote the Psalms in this way, but he also wrote a number of hymns based solely on personal feelings. By the way, "Joy to the World," how many of you think that's a Christmas song? How many of you know it's not a Christmas song? Pretty fascinating, isn't it? Boy, we sing it only at Christmas, but it has nothing to do with the birth of Christ. It's all about His second coming. That's wonderful. So we ought to. When should we sing that? How about every Sunday? We just might pull that one out. Amen.
I can't wait to see that.
We just might do that. Watts not only rewrote the Psalms in this way, but he also wrote a number of hymns based solely on personal feelings. These hymns were known as hymns of human composure. Such hymns were very controversial during this lifetime. When I Survey the Wondrous Cross is an example of this type of hymn written by Watts. In all, Isaac Watts composed more than 600 hymns. The tune for this text is known as the Hamburg tune. It was the work of Lowell Mason, who was often called the father of American public school and church music. Mason stated that he arranged this tune in 1824 from an ancient Gregorian chant. Remember when we talked about that in our first week? Yeah. Which was the earliest church music known. These church chants were inherited by early Christians from the Hebrew temple and synagogue services. They represent some of the loveliest melodies known. Remember I told you how pure and simplified they were because they all sang precisely in tune with each other. Pope Gregory, who lived during the latter part of the 6th century, was one of the first church leaders to be concerned about church music. He did much to improve and organize these chants, hence the term Gregorian chants. These chants still form the basis of Roman Catholic church music today. The Hamburg tune first appeared in the Boston's Handel and Haydn Society collection of church music. I'd just like to say that. Turn in your Boston's Handel and Haydn Society collection of church music to page number 258. It is interesting to note that the entire melody encompasses only a 5-note range. Other hymns that Lowell Mason composed the music to include From Greenland's Icy Mountains, Nearer My God to Thee, A Charge to Keep I Have, Joy to the World, My Faith Looks Up to Thee, and O Day of Rest and Gladness. Let's take our sheets and let's all sing When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. How many of you do not know this song? Great. You'll love it. It's wonderful.
On which the Prince of Glory
the second half of Lesson 2 on the duties of the minister of music. Last week when we jumped into this, we went through the foreground duties of the music director, speaking of your responsibilities, depending on your church, of course, like we mentioned, your duties as the platform man, that you are to prepare the audience for the worship service, to calm them, don't be jittery, don't be nerve-wracking, that you are to be familiar with your songs, lead with confidence, that you need to be conscientious about how much you may speak. Remember that you're not there to preach, you're there to lead the singing, so do your job and lead the singing, let the preacher preach. Unless you're the preacher and the song leader, then you can preach and lead the singing. But if you're not, you need to focus on your job. But, as always, mind the Lord, follow the Spirit, but make sure that it's the Spirit leading and not you wanting to share a story of experience and that's it. Be sure to announce the number twice in a very clear voice. And always make sure that you read the number that's on the page. If it's 358, remember to announce it 358, not 358. That way people they're flipping between two different pages and get their fingers stuck thinking you're going to do two different songs. 358. It's 358, or you can just say page 358. Okay? I highly encourage you not to read the verses before you sing them, especially if you're going to read the verse and then sing the verse. If you want people to focus on the words, tell them to pay attention to what they're singing, or just have everybody read it together. Don't constantly go over and go over and go over. Otherwise you start to lose people and they're just like, all right, it's time to sit down. And always make sure that you watch your time and don't lead too many songs. Always keeping in mind that the preaching is the preeminent. It's not a choir performance unless, of course, it really is a choir performance. If you're there for a cantata, well, it's a little different. You need to sing. But if it's just a regular service, make sure that you're keeping an eye on the time, because the more time you take up talking and singing extra songs is less time, in essence, that the preacher is given to be able to preach the message, which is the most important, okay? Keep the private jokes from the pulpit to a bare minimum, if not, none at all, because you're going to cause your visitors to feel very left out. They're not going to know who Bob is or why it's funny that he drove his old car to church today, not knowing that it has no fenders or a hood on it. And everybody else is going to giggle and they're going to go, what's so funny about that? I like that model of car. And you're going to have some people just feeling like, well, we just don't belong here. We don't get the little inside jokes. So keep that on the down low as well. And then we moved into the background, and I don't know how far, right off the top of my head, we got into the background, so we're just going to start with the background and go all the way through, okay? So this is the second page of your study notes in the second paragraph of the page.
I got it, Mark.
Oh, where'd you find it at?
We're down to the third paragraph.
Third paragraph from the bottom.
Second point in the background.
Second.
So it's the word second.
Yeah.
Okay, skip all the way down then to the paragraph where I begin with the word second. Second in the category of the background. Be on the ball about distributing hymnals evenly throughout the church. That means that you need to go and make sure that you don't have some people that are for some reason hoarding all the hymnals in one row. Make sure that everybody, you have the book holders on the back of the pew. So if most of the time they hold 3 each. Make sure there's 3 in each. Instead of 2 here, 4 here, 3, 3, 3. Make sure the choir has enough hymnals for it to be evenly distributed as well. Because if you're singing a song and they don't know it, they got to have a hymn book to be able to sing it. So don't let them get piled up in the same place. Now, some churches, though it's not advisable, have more than one kind of hymn book that they have in their pews. What this, in essence, does is it decreases the amount of books that are available for the song selection. I'll use my church, for example. We have the Broadman hymnal and the church hymnal. Now, the main reason for that is because there are some songs in the Broadman hymnal that are not in the church hymnal, and vice versa. But when you take a step back and look at it, what it really does is if I choose a selection out of the Broadman hymnal, instead of there's 2 book racks per pew, 6 in each. Well, instead of there being 6 books for a whole row of people to sing out of, there's either going to be 4 and 2, or 3 and 3, or 5 and 1. You don't know. That's why you got to evenly distribute them. So if I choose a church hymnal song, there may be a row that has no church hymnals on it at all, and it's all Broadman hymnals. But 2 rows back, they have nothing but church hymnals and no Broadman hymnals. So I need to be careful and make sure that all the rows are evenly stocked with the same amount of books. But this is one of the reasons, and we're going to touch this and really look in depth about the hymnals and what kind you should use at your church, and it's choosing a hymn book. But this is one of the reasons why having more than one hymn book in the congregation is not advisable for the simple fact that it cuts down on how many each person gets to hold, or how many each get to have. Third, it is a constant battle in order for you to keep your choir books up to date and in good shape. Now, we will be having a class on compiling, the task of compiling a new songbook in another session later on. We just recently come out of that at our church, and it feels very exciting. It was a lot of work, but it was very exciting. And we're going to have a class that is devoted to that and all the things that goes into the preparation, the planning, but also getting it done, okay? In the meantime, or if you have already compiled a new book, stay on top of keeping them in good shape and making sure all the songs are included. Just the other day I had somebody come up to me that was not at the choir practice when we handed out numbered sheet protectors for the newest song that we added to our book. So they've been having to hold it in their hands, so they finally let me know, oh, by the way, I wasn't here the night of practice that you did that. So I went and got them sheet protectors, numbered it, and fixed their book. We've got to make sure that every book has the same amount of songs, they're not missing any, that if a sheet or a sheet protector gets torn, you need to replace it. You need to keep it looking nice. Everything needs to be done first class, so you need to stay on top of that. That is a very big deal, but it's a constant battle. Fourth, in the background, I highly recommend that you keep a log of the songs sung with the corresponding date. And if you'll notice on your homework assignment that I handed you today, that is what I'm referring to. This is your bonus for an extra 100 points. If you'll look on your homework assignment there, what I want you to do is to keep a log of the songs sung by the choir and by the congregation for the remainder of this session. Okay? So that's all the way till we're done with the Ministry of Music 1. You've got to be sure you include, if it's choir or congregation, etc., the book that was used, like if it was a hymn book, choir book, etc., what page number it was, and the song title. Now, one of the things that I do is what do I do with my hymn book? Hymn book. Nope. Yep. Got it. Here we go. What I do is I take a pencil, and in my hymn book, I pencil in the date that we sang the song. That way, if I'm looking, now if the Lord leads me to sing a song that we sung 2 weeks ago, so be it. But if I'm just skimming through and trying to gather my thoughts, because like I told you, try to get a handful together, that way and then just kind of narrow it down as you go. I don't want to just randomly decide, well, I like Love Lifted Me, so let's do that one. Well, unless God is really, really hammering hard on my heart to sing Love Lifted Me, if we just did that 3 weeks ago, I'm going to try my best not to do that, because there's hundreds of songs in this book. And if you're not careful, you will limit yourself, your choir, and your church to just a handful. And what's the point of having a whole book full of songs if you're not going to sing them? So make sure that you keep a log of when the last time that you sang them. Now, don't do that with the invitation songs, because, you could use Just As I Am multiple weeks depending on what the pastor preaches on. I mean, you could use it in an application if it's a message about, drawing closer to God, or if it's a message on salvation. Sinners and saints alike can be drawn to the Lord by using Just As I Am. Either way. But so that's the reason that I don't keep a tab on how often that I do the invitation songs. But I do write down in my hymn book in pencil. The reason I do it in pencil is because if after a while, after a few years, you're going to realize you don't have anywhere else to write down the dates. So you need to start erasing and writing them down again. What I do with my choir book is I have in the front, my front pocket here, I actually have a log sheet that I have written down the date of the service and then each song that's sung. And same principle, so that I avoid the mistake. And a lot of times it's just an oversight. Let's be honest, those of you that are choir directors too, you know that sometimes that you're caught off guard and you don't have enough songs planned, or you didn't get a chance to really put as much time as you wanted to in it, so you're kind of fingering through at the last minute trying to think of what song would go good today and things like that. And if you're not careful, you're not thinking you'll sing the song you just sang Sunday night. So keep a log of your songs, that way you know when the last time that it was done, so you don't wear them out, so you don't overuse them, okay? I do the same thing with the youth choir, and we'll be doing the same thing with the little kids, the golden harps as we refer to them. So always make a point to keep track and write it in your hymn book in pencil when you sung it. And if you don't want to do it that way, if you have an office at your church, what you can do is you can put a sheet on the back side of your door, and you can have a log there. And I know some directors that will actually assign a music secretary in their choir or in their church that their job is to record the song sung. That way he's not completely tied down with all the other stuff that he has to keep track of that as well. It's that person's job to, after the end of service, to write wherever the log sheet is the songs that were sung and what page they were on. That way everybody's on the same page and you don't sing the same songs over and over and over. You really would be amazed how songs get overlooked and other songs get overused. You think you sung this song a little while ago, and if you write it down, you'll actually find out, man, it's been 6 months since we sang Amazing Grace at our church. But, you know, you've sung it all your life, you don't really realize that. So that's another reason that we do it, so that we don't leave one kind of just lying in the dust. Not that one song is better than the other, but many directors do fail to keep accurate records, and some of the great songs of the faith lose their luster. People get burned out on them because of frequent use. I have known song leaders who were so predictable in their selection that you can narrow it down to one of 3 choices every time it was their turn to lead singing. Amen. Have some variety in your music and sing other songs. You have a hymnal full of great, powerful songs. Don't limit yourself or your choir to just a handful. If you want to add to your repertoire, Wednesday night is a fantastic time to introduce a new song, or to brush up on an old one that has been shelved. If you haven't sung the Royal Telephone in the church hymnal in a while, Wednesday night's a good time to break it out. Y'all know that one, don't you? Central's never busy. Wednesday night's a good time to really break something like that out and kind of blow the dust off. Sunday morning is not the time to break out a song that nobody knows. There are people there that are lost. Most of the time, lost people don't show up on Wednesday night. They're somewhere else. They're too lazy to go to church on Wednesday night. It's hard to get a saved person to go to church on Wednesday night, much less the sinner needing to be saved. Amen. But Sunday morning's not the time to break out a new one, and it's not the time to dust off an old one. So be wise and use your Wednesday nights accordingly. Now for the choirs, I just said that, didn't I? Keep a logbook. But I did want to write in here and remind you that it does not keep me from singing the same song in a close rotation. God may lead me to select the same song 2 or 3 Sundays in a row. If your choir doesn't know God is still good, sometimes the Lord just allows you to be able to sing it several times, because you know what? God is good, and it doesn't matter what you're going through. If you can't stop and say that God has been good to you, you're lying. That's all there is to it. And songs like that, God can use in great proximity. Even though some songs may get burned out, there are some songs that God can just bless greatly. So don't be afraid to sing them 2 or 3 Sundays in a row if the Lord leads you in that direction. It does, however, keep me from forgetting when a particular song was sung and accidentally doing it again without realizing it. And I just told you about the part on the back of your door and a spreadsheet log. So next paragraph. The final category of duties would be of those that fall on other ground. We did the foreground, and we did the background. Now we're talking about all the duties that would fall on other ground. Number 1, your duty as the director, first of all, is to be neat in your appearance. Man, if you could have been here the night that Brother Scott Caudle preached, what was it, Wednesday night? It was Wednesday night he preached and he pulled the comb out of his pocket. Y'all got to see my home screen of my phone now. It just so happens I carry a pocket comb with me too, and I had mine that night. And after service I walked up to Brother Scott, and before he shook my hand I just pulled mine out when I went. He goes, "Oh, brother! Hey, man!" We had our picture made. Now it's on my phone, you know, me and him going. Never forget that. And I sent that to him, you know, when he got home, and he was just like, "Oh, that's cool, man. That's great." But don't be afraid. It's like he said in his message, don't be ashamed that you comb your hair. I mean, my goodness. I mean, don't be... he was talking about how even in good, godly, independent, fundamental Baptist churches, you'll walk in and all of a sudden a preacher that used to be in a 3-piece suit and a tie and all kinds of stuff, now he forgot how to tie a tie, don't even wear it on Sunday morning. I've seen preachers that'll get up and preach revival meetings in a turtleneck. I mean, in a collarless golf shirt. And I'm thinking, why? What is the benefit in dressing down? Now, I'll tell you what the benefit of dressing up is. is to show how important something is to you. If you go to a job interview, do you wear your pajamas? No, because it's important. You dress nice. Do you show up in your blue jeans and a t-shirt with a hole in it and oil stains on it at a wedding? Maybe, but not really. You better not. Some people, perhaps. And you don't do that at funerals. Well, I've been to a few. But you're not supposed to do that at funerals either, because it's disrespectful, because it is a special occasion. Maybe not an exciting occasion for a funeral, but it's a special occasion. And when it's a special occasion, we should always give more, do more. You know, shave. Good night. Oh, well. Some of it anyway, not all of it. Yeah, trim, you know, that's a good word, trim. I try to use my, I try to trim my beard at least once, maybe twice a week, just to keep it looking groomed. I mean, there's nothing, I guess there's really nothing wrong with having a Grizzly Adams look, depending on who you are. I guess if you're Pastor Paul Brian Miller at Goshen Baptist Church in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, it works. It works for him, you know, he's a deer hunter and all this other stuff, but I'm not. I would look strange if I had one of the Robertson beards going on. It just wouldn't look right. But all I can say is the best thing that you can do is be neat in your appearance. Keep your suits and your ties clean and your shirts pressed. Don't be a slob. Match your outfits and learn how to be dapper. If you ever mess around with Pinterest, Google. You can't Google on Pinterest. Search on Pinterest for men's suit styles, men's fashions. I have a board that I've created for stuff like that on Pinterest that you can look at my pins that teaches you how to correctly match your ties with your shirts, your patterns with your socks, how to shine your shoes, the 4 key steps to a good shoe shine. You think I'm crazy, but did you know that there are steps to properly tucking in your dress shirt? People don't know that. I've got pins on there on how to tie your neckties and 18 different ways to tie your tie. Everybody thinks that the Windsor is the only way to go. I've got an app on my phone called Tie Master that gives videos of like 12 or 15 different ways to tie your necktie.
If you're married, you don't have to worry about it.
I mean, because the thing is, if you've got a spread collar or a narrow collar or a button-down collar, if you're going formal, casual, business, there's different knots for different occasions. And who knows how to tie a bow tie? It's not as easy as it looks. Sometimes you go bozo and sometimes you're more like Columbo. You know, you just never really know. So you got to practice at that. It's 3 steps, but man, is it hard to get it out right. Don't be ashamed to give it more, to do better. Just like Brother Scott said, don't be ashamed of wearing a suit and tie, for crying out loud. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's highly advisable, next paragraph, that you dress appropriately for the position. How you present yourself will determine how you will be perceived. Don't overdress or underdress. A tuxedo is not necessary, except for maybe special services like a Christmas cantata. You better mark that one down. But a suit and tie is recommended for all services. Or at least a necktie, and yes, that includes the rest of your garments as well, not just the necktie. My father-in-law called me out on that one. He's like, well, brother, that don't sound too right. Well, I meant everything. Instead of having a suit and tie, maybe just a necktie like I'm wearing tonight. But there should never, if you're the director, if you're the music leader, there should never be a time that you stand in front of that congregation without a necktie on, man. There's never an excuse for that, because you are setting the example. Would you be okay with your preacher getting up and preaching without a necktie on? You'd feel like you was at some kind of liberal, loosey-goosey church that you can just read the back of a card, sign your name, and you're going to heaven kind of atmosphere.
How about Wednesday night?
Same place, same God, same Bible. Nothing's changed except for our attitudes about the place that we're worshiping in. Right. Amen! We're going shopping. Yeah! All right. By the way, I highly recommend going to Ross. You can get great ties for great prices. It's cheap. I mean, I've gotten bow ties, neckties, belts. I think I may have even come across cufflinks before. You know, I found cufflinks at Kohl's for $3 one time. You can dress nice and dress cheap too. I'm telling you. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Remember that you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. You are being watched, and people will either excuse their casualness by yours or be convicted for theirs. Church is not a casual occasion. Church is not a hangout. If you want to hang out, go to the bowling alley or the local high school football game. Make church a priority and a place of importance. dress accordingly. You will dress in a way that reflects how you view church subconsciously. Make the effort to dress better. Brother Scott pointed out, I dress this way because I want to. Not because I believe that I have to. I'm not a legalist. I don't believe that if I don't dress this way, then I'm going to lose my salvation or God didn't save me to begin with. I dress this way because God saved me, made me a new creature, and I choose to be different from the world. I don't want to be conformed to the world. The Bible tells me, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That means instead of just putting on jeans and a t-shirt, my mind's renewed and I'm going to dress better when I go to church. I'm going to give God more. Amen. More from my heart, but more also in the way that I show my attitude to others in the place that I'm entering. If I show up in shorts and a wife beater, everybody's going to be like, yeah, he's real excited to be here. I show up in a suit. I've got fresh cologne on. By the way, if you ain't got 16 different kinds of cologne, you ain't got enough. And I got my shoes shine and things like that. I'm trying to get you to understand that you need to hold yourself to a higher standard and dress accordingly.
And you're not talking just about choir directors now.
Huh?
You're not talking just about choir directors now. You're talking about the entire congregation.
I'm talking about everybody, but I am specifically addressing choir directors, yes. But that includes everybody. Even if you sing in the choir.
Yeah.
Brother Scott told me, my wife and I got to take a trip down to Covington, Georgia before Brother Scott left Canaan Baptist. And one of the things that they actually adopted at their church is that if you were going to stand on the platform of their church and sing, you did not do so as a man unless you had a tie on. That's the way that it was done, because it was held to such a high standard, and it caused people to realize this is hallowed ground. Now some people would be like, oh, that's ridiculous. I don't know, it sounds kind of good to me, because it might cause some people to take it more seriously. But, not every church's character will allow that. And I told you this before, every church has a personality. Every church has a character. You have to understand it. You have to get to know it. If that's not going to fly, don't shove it down their throat. You'll just shove them into the congregation and out of the choir loft. But they need to know that they need to give their best, okay? Personal story in here. Reverend Cheryl Wilbur changed my life one day when he lovingly put his arm around me. And he said, son, you look good, but I think you can look better. I was only his choir director for maybe 3-4 months. But he walked up to me, and that's the exact things that he said. And he handed me a bag full of neckties and dress shirts that he had gotten for me. Because I thought I looked good enough. Good enough. But he said, you look good, but I think you can look better. And that was his way of saying, don't come back without a necktie on. That's called tact. There's a way to come across and slap somebody across the face and then want to give you a hug afterwards. Read the book of James. He's good at that. It's good. And I've never looked back ever since. I mean, that set the stage for me when By the Blood started singing. I started wearing a suit and a tie. And I learned how to tie a necktie. I mean, my mom made me wear ties when I was a little kid, but I didn't know what I was doing. Just clip it on and go. I was like, yeah, all right, sure. I think even had bow ties back then. So you could train up a child in the way he should go, right? That's right. All right, so he was telling me without telling me to set the examples for others to follow because people were watching. Third of all, you need to have your songs pre-planned and practiced before service times. People can tell when you're flying by the seat of your pants or that you're planned and prepared for your job. You need to have already practiced leading the song in front of the mirror, and we'll get to that later, and pay special attention to your facial and mouth expressions. Set the mood for the song. How many times have I said, and have you heard it said by others, don't sing like you're in pain. I mean, you need to learn to smile when you sing. My father-in-law swears it's impossible. But I'm telling you, you can sing. Raise your eyebrows, use your eyes. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do it. And you're transmitting a message to the people that are listening to you. And if you look miserable, they ain't going to receive it with joy. They're going to be like, yeah, I hear you, brother. It does sound like that. And you don't even realize what you're doing. There are some people that when they sing, I'm telling you, they look plumb angry. I get some looks on Sunday mornings and Sunday nights, and they don't even know that they're doing it, I don't think. I mean, they look scared. Some of them turn a pale white, and they look absolutely scared to death. I reckon that's why they asked me if they could sit closer to the back, because they're too close to the front. I don't know. I'm scared to death. Somebody's going to see them in the choir. But then you got your people that look mad because they're concentrating so hard on that book to make sure that they hit every single note right. And they burned a hole through it, and it looks like they're giving it the death stare. And then you got your people that look at you with their eyes crossed because they got it too close to the face. I mean, it's just absolutely amusing to me as a director, the expressions that people have, and they don't even realize that they're doing it. And one of the ways that I have suggested, but have yet to experience trying on my own, I've heard it suggested, I should say, that if you'll have mirrors and hand them out to your choir and just randomly hold them up to people while they're singing and let them see themselves, or record video of your choir singing and zoom it in on people and panning across the choir as they're singing, it'll get some responses from some people. They'll be like, wow, that's what I look like when I sing. I really do look like my underwear is too tight. I mean, some people just look plumb uncomfortable. And as the director, you need to help them get past that and learn to smile when they sing. Now, if you're singing a song about people dying and going to hell, don't smile. Try to be appropriate. But don't look like you're disgusted or you're in pain. It's all about your facial expressions, okay? Fourth, you must pray to be a help to your pastor. He faces opposition from the enemy. He doesn't need any. From a fellow soldier too. Pray that God will show you how you can help him fight the good fight and how to be an encouragement to him. Before you introduce a song, sometimes it's a good idea to ask your pastor, Pastor, you okay with this? Do you like this one? I mean, do you even know this one if he don't know it? I mean, sometimes he just may say, no, brother, that's up to you. I mean, I trust you, put you in that position, that's your baby, you raise it, But there are some pastors that really do want to have a little bit of a heads up on everything that's done. That way they can thwart anything that could potentially, not that you would sabotage anything, but he may have a little more insight than you spiritually for something that Satan may take and use that you didn't see. So sometimes it's good for you to ask your pastor, how do you feel about this song before you introduce it and have to pull it away because, whoops, I didn't realize that was in there. That's undoctrinally true. So always make sure that you're praying to be a help to your pastor. Otherwise, he cringes inside every time you get up with your songbook, wondering what's he going to do next. Fifth of all, make a special effort not to be sterile and dry. You must put some heart and soul into your job. It should be clear that you love what you do. And if you don't, others will know it and will wonder why you're the one that has that responsibility. Open up and submerge yourself into being better. If you are the platform man at your church, make sure that when you do the announcements, you take prayer requests or greet the people, concentrate on your facial expressions. Don't look angry at them. Some people, their natural expression is concentration. And some people concentrate by looking at you like that. And they don't even realize it. Some people have a natural scowl. Especially older folks. Y'all ever noticed that before?
Hey, watch it.
We'll have a cane thrown at me in a minute. Somebody's going to throw a leg or something. But I'm telling you, some people, they have a natural frown about them. And I think they call it a crestfallen face. I don't know. But some people's crest is fallen all the way to the ground. And they just have this frump about them where they just sit there. Hey, man. You're like, you're lying. No. That's what you think that they're saying because of the look that they have on their face. Why can't people have a natural smile? Yeah. Hey, man. Yeah, but like, I can't stand you. At least you'll believe half of them, You're not sure which way they're going with it because of the message that they're presenting by their expressions. So make sure that if you're the one that the people are seeing, that they see somebody that's joyful, not dry, not sterile. Well, it's good to be in the house of God again tonight. We need to pray for so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. All right, brother so-and-so, if you'll lead us in the Lord in prayer. Amen. And then you get, all right, now let's all take our handbooks and turn to page number 2. And you start singing. Don't be sterile and dry. You don't have to be animated. Not everybody is as animated as I am. I know that. Whatever. But but you need to learn to open up and just give yourself into what you do. Because if you're not excited about it, they're not going to enjoy it either. So come alive a little bit. And the best way for you to do that, is to pray specifically for God to help you to open up like a blossoming flower and be an encouragement. Last of all, do not embarrass or offend people by blaming others for mistakes. Even if they were clearly at fault, take the blame or don't place it at all. You'll never gain the trust and confidence of your musicians if they're afraid of messing up. Let them know it's all right, because you'll certainly do your fair share of errors as well. I'm telling you, you want to have a really dry service, you go ahead and make your pianist mad. And she not show up on Sunday morning, you're going to go, well, guess we'll be having crow for lunch. Fried, more than likely. And you'd be amazed how it'll affect the service, because you've done something, absolutely crawled all over somebody, and you might not even know it. That's why you got to be careful about what you say. Pray, pray, pray. And, I mean, just smile. Good night. I mean, you can. I'm telling you, I believe Brother James, when he wrote his book of the Bible, he probably had a smile on his face while he was writing all this stuff. Filthy scoundrels, and just writing all you sinners. You need to get some works in your life and not have dead faith all the time. He was probably sitting there smiling while he's thinking about it, because he's trying to help some people out. Wow. But remember, your duties as the music director all go in the category of the foreground, the things that people see, the background, the things that people really don't know that you do. But the things in the background that are done properly, they will be what causes the foreground to be that much more great. And then the things that fall on the other ground are things that you personally should attend to about your dress and your facial expressions and working on that. And the best way that you can do that is to record yourself with a video, or do it in front of the mirror and watch how you look. Make sure your posture's right. Don't be sitting up there leading like this right here and all this stuff and having floppy elbows and whatnot. And some of you may not even use your arms, but you will before this is all over with, because you'll learn what I'm doing. My father-in-law, Jerry, learned something the other day. He thought that I was doing this because I was trying to point to everybody in the choir, and that I was trying to make sure everybody had their attention. And I said, no, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, and I was just keeping time. And he was like, all this time I thought you was going, you sing, you sing, you sing, you sing. But before it's all over with, you learn how to do it with both hands, how to hold with one hand, and how to lead two parts with one hand. And before you know it, you'll have one hand going this way and the other one going the other way. Can you do that? Can you do one clockwise, one counterclockwise at the same time? See, everybody tries to do it this way or this way, but you got one going this way and one going this way. So it looks like this.
Tell preacher you're dancing. Hand job.
All right, so homework assignment. This is what you need to do. You've got 5 questions that I want you to answer. They're going to be really easy. Then you've got your extra credit for an additional 100 points. For the remainder of the session, keep track of all your songs that your church does. Those of you at Pleasant Grove, you're at a disadvantage, because I will know if you're right or wrong or missing a few, but that's all right. But just go ahead.
What is get your law?
Just make us copy. Shh. And get that to me at the end of this session before we begin our next session of classes, okay? So everything that you need to do is right there. Answer those 5 questions, all right? Okay, Scotty, if you'll get the camera, we are done. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the class. God bless you.